Everybody got their membership card. And everybody's got powder.
Entering the field now are the members of the Confederate Forces of the Southern Skirmish Association, the oldest reenactment society in the UK. They reenact the American Civil War. This took place between April 1861 and 1865. And if you're wondering where he has been elected without a single vote in the southern states. Not one. That would be a bit like if our Prime Minister was elected based on the votes of the very, very disjointed towards social development. So it's about everything. And America has been founded with the idea of freedom. In fact, if you read the American Declaration of Independence, it says that if you feel that you have been pressured or forced to do Union positions, it wasn't fun anymore. Quite a few ordinary civilians got caught up in the rout and were killed. It was the first clue that this war was not going to be easy. At the beginning of the war, many men were still fighting with the flintlocks they'd used, or their grandparents had used, in the War of Independence. By the end of it, the Gatling gun had been invented. The first successful attack by submarine on enemy shipping had been carried out in Charleston Harbour. They had started with the use, for the first time, of trench warfare, with feeder trenches allowing men to move up to the front without being exposed to the enemy. They went from single-shot, muzzle-loading muskets to repeating rifles. But the tactics being used were still Napoleonic. So a weapon that could fire much, much further was still being aimed at men who were lining up to die. This probably gives you an idea of why the toll of death was so high. By the end of the American Civil War, the original estimates between 620 and 650,000 Americans dead. This year, some new census analysis has revealed the total number may be closer to 800,000. At the Battle of the Horseshoe, 6,000 men died in 20 minutes at the end of single muzzle-loading muskets. And a good man could fire 3 aimed shots a minute. But on this occasion, they were passing the rifles up in a row, loaded and ready to go, so they could just keep firing. The bullets they're firing are 1 ounce lead. They go in like a bullet, they come out below the bone from joint to joint. That doesn't mean they were always fatal. In fact, one lawyer who was shot through both lungs was told that the wound was mortal and told his doctors, "I don't feel like dying yet," and he didn't. Which I suppose says something for the stubbornness of some lawyers. There's a Union cannon doing some range finding. Just checking out. We have a 10-pound brass mountain howitzer. Not quite full size, but I can tell you that even today, our mountain howitzer would fire a cannonball a mile.
Aim low!
We actually had a film crew who used to fire live. We refused on the grounds we didn't know what was a mile away and we didn't know what we hit. For that reason, and because we are using gunpowder and pyrotechnics, please do make sure you stay back. And please don't rush onto the field afterwards. It does have to be cleared of gunpowder. Make sure it's safe. At the moment, the Confederate forces still got their arms back. They feel it's pretty safe. reasonable distance away. Those guns could fire accurately about 800-900 yards. And not with just one or two, but with 20, 30, 50 cannon firing one after the other after the other. You can see the smoke that's sent out of those things. Imagine 30 or 40 of them firing and you wouldn't be able to see the battlefield anymore. Of course they don't have the fire of the type that we're used to, but they did use balloons. The very first blackout was carried out during the American Civil War when General Beauregard ordered his men to dim their lights in their tents so that the enemy couldn't count the number of tents and therefore couldn't estimate the number of forces against them. It also resulted in the very first anti-aircraft gun to shoot down the balloon observers. The first battle of ironclads took place during the American Civil War between the CSS Merrimack. Because they were ironclads, they couldn't break through. And if you think it's got nothing to do with it would be a threat to our Navy and our domination of the world. But in 1863, Abraham Lincoln released the Emancipation Proclamation, stating that as of the 1st of January, the following Union states that were slaveholders didn't free any of those slaves. It was a political move to keep England out, to keep France out, to make sure that it stayed American. Others have been pressed into service as soon as they landed on American shore. It was the cost of coming in. Union forces lining up to shoot at the Confederates, and typically the big problem was these guns, when they're loaded with ammo, is devastating. They fire in a variety of ways. A volley by companies, one mass firing into the enemy, firing by file so it can ripple along the line. Firing front and rear ranks. If any of you have seen the film Gettysburg, you'll have seen that. If you've seen the film Zulu, you will still have seen that. Because such a tactic was still being used in name battles after a near town or city, because they tended to be agricultural. The Northerners named it after a natural feature, such as Bull Run Creek, because they were industrial. The things that stand out to people. But the very first Battle of Manassas, or Bull Run. As in World War I, these men would have been in units where they all knew each other before they joined up. They would have been brothers and cousins, comrades in the workplace that became comrades in arms. On the one hand, this could be useful. Nobody wanted to be seen as cowards in the eyes of people who knew. On the other hand, once the rout began, it tended to spread more quickly. But it does make for an easier target. This is just a skirmish. At the Battle of Shiloh, 100,000 fought, and 40,000 were casualties. General Grant said you could cover from one end of the field to the other without touching grass, just by stepping on the bodies. Shiloh, by the way, means place of peace. Confederate charge did not work. They were obliterated. Now the Union forces are lining up to face the second charge. It's all down here. This is our land.
They're the blues, they've come down behind. They just went down that way behind them, they came behind them. They raised that for this.
And I believe I see the hands raised. What's left of the Confederates running and being taken down. It is a Union victory today. Uncover is our salute to the real dead of the Civil War. And resurrect, which means our troops can come back. If you want to take a photograph, watch for the officer dropping his sword. That's the moment to take it. That's right, he'll just drop it straight down. And you should get a good line up. Now, although we are only firing gunpowder, out of a 4-foot musket comes a 5-foot plane. Which is why you may have felt, as we got close to each other, well, you're firing in the air, you can't possibly hit each other. No, that's rather the point. We don't want to hurt each other. While they're lining up, you can take in the different uniforms. You notice the Union, the sky blue trousers and the dark blue jacket, all made internally within the US. Confederate forces, a very mixed bag. The sort of yellow or grey jackets, especially the lighter ones, the butternuts, those were homemade. They'd roast nuts. The more you roast them, the darker the colour. Some of the uniforms would have come from this country. You will hear our Union officer when he yells, because Russell can't half yell. So they're all lining up, getting ready to give you that volley. Watch his sword, and again, off with any hearing aids.
Firing by brigade! Ready! Hey! No!
In case you missed it the first time, they're going to give you another one. Now you see what I mean about that smoke. And this is just, it's a company. The whole lot of us together, it's a company. Imagine 20,000 men. Again, watch your ears. They are now fixing bayonets. They are going to charge you, ladies and gentlemen, to give you a flavour of what it would have been like to be on the receiving end of one of these things. Now, if you watch the films, you might notice the bayonets are a bit rubber. They bounce around a lot. Ours are solid steel. So that's a 4-foot musket with 18 inches of steel on the end of it. They get a little overeager sometimes. They're saluting you, ladies and gentlemen. The men